K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and you're watching another episode of Sportsminute. Tonight, we have a special guest for you, so let me go ahead and introduce to you the guys that I have tonight with me, and then I will introduce to you our special guest. So, of course, my usual co-host that I have with me, none other than that man that we call Mr. Big B. Big B, how you doing tonight, my man?
Hey, doing good. Most of you guys know Wednesday's card night for me. Tonight was not a good hand. I should have folded and walked away, like the old Kenny Rogers song says. So, but can't wait to get to our guest and hear what how he got to where he's at in life. So.
All right, and then of course we have coming up with us tonight, joining us on the show, Mr. Mess Around Dave. Mess Around Dave, how's it going tonight?
I'm good. Just got done doing dishes and cleaning up the house after dinner. So looking forward to doing this interview.
All right. And then his name's Chris. He likes bacon, so we call him Crispy Bacon. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How's everybody doing tonight?
Fantastic. And then James Gonzalez, how's it going tonight, my man?
It's good. This is going to be a great interview.
Oh, absolutely. And, of course, let me welcome you in the man of the hour, Scott Lieberman. We've been waiting to do an interview with a hockey official, hockey player for a very long time, so we're glad you're here so we can give you a little interview there, Scott.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So how's your night going? Because you said you just came off of officiating a couple games.
Oh, it went well. I worked my day job in the morning. Actually, I have a job at Topgolf during the day. And then I leave there and I go to the rink every night. So tonight we just had 2 games. Usually I do 3 to 4 a night. And then my weekends are filled with ice hockey.
All right. So if you don't mind, we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first question that I have for you is I noticed that you were a level 4 hockey official, if that is accurate. So what I'm wondering is, what is the difference when it comes to the different levels of being hockey official?
It's just knowledge of the rules and the code of conduct and standards. There's only 4 levels you can do. And, once you hit 4, you have to be 3 years consecutive at a level 3 or a 4. And then you can go to your symposium and then you're tenured for life. You never have to take your test again. But they test us every year. You have to get a 90 or better, and you have to be a lawyer to figure out some of these questions. And to cancel out all the penalties, it's an algebra equation.
All right, Big B.
So what was it like coaching your first U.S. game? I guess would be, was it nerve-wracking?
I mean, reffing my USA hockey games.
Yeah.
A little bit. It's intimidating. When you get crested and you take your seminar, they're very militant, and everything's regimented, and it's just even when you come to the rink, you have to dress appropriately because you have to play the part. I make jokes and I put my costume on, because it's not the norm, but it's different. I've been playing since I'm 5. I'm going to be 53. So I have a passion for the game. I've been playing the game since I can remember, and I've been skating. I probably skate better than I walk.
Okay. Mess around.
What's the hardest part of being an official?
I would say there's a couple of hard parts. the main hard part is everybody. It's on everybody's tongues. It's satisfying the fans, the parents, and the players, because like somebody's always got to be the bad guy. So like if you're fair and impartial, which everybody sort of is, you just apply your standards and how you want to apply them. And after years of experience, like you're gonna make a ton of mistakes. Like after the amount of time I've been doing it, I still make mistakes every game. And like you try and correct them. You try and own up to them. Coaches are going to be chirping in your ear regardless. The parents are going to be even more pissed. But like when you do a lot of travel games, those kids are paying a lot of money to play. So like they want the best out there.
All right. So before I get to Chris's question here, so Scott, if you don't mind, do you kind of mind kind of sharing what kind of each referee's job entails on the ice? Because I know there's kind of different ones and kind of the different positions. So do you kind of mind sharing?
It depends on what type of game you're doing. Normally when you do a 2-man, both officials split the rink in half, and you're an official and a linesman. Then when you go to a 3-man and a 4-man system, whether it's 2 officials and 1 linesman or 2 officials and 2 linesmen, like that's pretty much the max that you go. And it's your experience. Like your assigner knows what you can do, and he knows what you're capable of, because they all talk. And they have spotters there. They have certain game monitors, so they know what we do. But like the beauty of it is, I'm a level 4 U.S. ice hockey official. I can go to Alaska tomorrow and I'm working. All I have to do is call an assigner. They'll ask me who my assigner is, and they'll say, "Hey, what is Scott Liebman capable of doing?" And they'll say he basically do every level of play that's out there, which is basically midget and juniors are the highest. Those are your 18 and 21-year-olds, and then everything else down.
Wow. Okay. All right, Chris.
I guess what's your favorite city or state you've refed in?
I would say I do the majority of my officiating in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and I enjoy Pennsylvania just because the scenery is nice, and I've been back and forth to Jersey and Pennsylvania umpteen times, 12 months a year.
Okay. James?
Definitely got some empty net questions here, but what made you like or love the game of hockey?
I was brought up with it. I grew up. My father had season tickets to the Islanders since day one, so it was basically inbred in me. And I'm Blue and Orange Army. I'm an Islander fan still. Like the guys that play the drums in the back and do all those crazy stuff, those are all my friends.
Wow.
So I'm in the tribe.
Oh, absolutely. So, my question for you, and I'm curious. So, who is actually your favorite NHL team?
The Islanders.
The Islanders? Okay. The Islanders.
I saw all 4 Stanley Cups growing up. And as a kid, back then, the players and the players' wives had 0 privileges. And where we were sitting, I used to sit in front of Mrs. Bossy. She used to sit behind me every game.
Nice.
Wow.
She used to come to the games all dolled up in her furs. And, they made good money back then, but the wives were in the 300s.
Okay. Big B?
Since you followed hockey your whole life, give us your Mount Rushmore of hockey players.
My favorite player has always been Mike Bossy, and all the old school Islanders. I was a goaltender, so another favorite player was Billy Smith. And currently, I would say my top 2 players, believe it or not, is I'm a huge Josh Bailey fan. The Josh Bailey chant is my ringtone, and again, the Blue and Orange Army made this song, and it's kind of funny. And Matt Martin's another one of my favorite players.
Okay. Mess around.
Do you, as an official, do you guys like seeing the players fight as much as fans do? Or is that something you guys rather not see?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
As an official, do you like seeing the players fight as much as we do? Or is that something you don't like to see?
No, because I have to fill out a report. It's all legal documents. If something happens, there's it climbs the ladder and there's a process. So I'm like, when I do roller hockey and I do pro roller events, those guys basically can kill each other, and we're not going to call anything because if we do, they get pissed even more, man. They want you to let them play. So what you do is you try and call the obvious and the malicious, and everything else is game flow.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of what a few of us were actually wondering when it came to like the fighting aspect of it, because you kind of see to where some officials kind of let it go a little bit more for a little bit longer than actually other ones. So at what point, how long do you actually let these little scrums go until you go, you know what, that's enough, we have to break it up now?
That's a good question, and I would say, just based on experience, like you can sense it. You get a feel for it. Like, good example is tonight. I'll even tell you, like, I'm friends with, I know most of the players that play because I've been doing it so long. So good, for instance, is tonight, behind the play comes out of the zone, and, two guys were going at it a little bit, back and forth. So when the play came out, one guy gave him a slash, and then the other guy gave him a hit. So I said, that's enough out of both ears. And once I said both ears, they both went to the penalty box, and not realizing I was giving them a warning, but they had guilty conscience, and they went to the penalty box. I'm like, you know what? It's coincidental minors, 4-on-4, and, you're going to go back to it. And then I went over to the penalty box, and I told them, I was like, you guys both have a guilty conscience because I was warning you. And even my partner knew I was warning them. But, they needed a timeout.
So it's so you kind of pick it up, and it's kind of under your discretion, correct? Like when you feel
it's subjective. Like subjective, like I always criticize the kids when they play, because I always say you never know what happened during school that day and what they're going to bring to the rink. And a lot of kids, they get down on themselves and they worry about the top players on the other team. And I tell them, why are you worried about them? I'm like, I have you here today. And I'm like, let's see what you bring to the table. You don't know if he's going to have a bad day, and you can have your best day.
Okay. Chris.
Yeah, you're talking about your favorite players, growing up. Which player did you, like, I guess, which player you least rooted against or just disliked?
I would actually say there's none that I really dislike. Like, I'm more of a hockey fan in general. Like, I have tons of T-shirts and jerseys from other teams. I have my favorites. The guys that are, a tick, so to speak. You respect them in a certain way. But like, I'm a pretty loyal Islander fan, and like, that's where my true passion and love is. But like, the entire league, like when the Islanders are doing terrible, I'll still go to all the games and there's an empty house there, but you're seeing an NHL game. It's two teams. Like, you're seeing a team, like, I like to go to the games when there's a West Coast team on the East Coast, because in my opinion, West Coast hockey is different than East Coast hockey. Only because they learned the game after it came west from East, and to me, they're faster. Like, we're like on the East Coast, I think they're more engaged and they have a lot of knowledge, but I think the West Coast, the speed makes up for the rest of it.
Okay. James?
Yeah, what made you become a referee?
I wanted to get involved, and I knew that there was a seminar. I've been crested since 2000, and I had played ice hockey my whole life. So at that point, I saw the posters at the rink, become a USA official and get involved, and that's what I did. I got my crest and haven't really looked back.
So go ahead.
And being a goaltender, all goaltenders, in my opinion, make the best officials in the long run, because you're forced to watch the whole game.
Wow.
Yeah. I was gonna say, because I've never actually played hockey. Now I watch hockey, but I've never actually played it. So I'm really curious. When you're a goaltender and you barely get any shots on you, let's say in that game, there might be a few games where you barely get any shots hit towards you at all. How do you keep in tuned in the game? Like that, I'm really curious about that.
don't look at the fans or the pretty girls that are on the sidelines, because when we were teenagers, that's how they used to score on me when I wasn't looking. But you know, you have to pay attention. Like I talk to the goalies all game because you're on their end of the ice constantly. And you know, you tell them, like, make sure you follow that play even if they're not shooting on you, because you never know when something's gonna happen or something might happen that you're not expecting.
Okay, Big B.
So I don't know if you can answer this a little bit, but what is the mindset, with the MLB lockout? What do you think is the mindset of the referee or the umpires, with their pending jobs now? I mean, what's going through their minds, if you can enlighten us on that?
You know, I don't really follow baseball all that much, but the mentality behind it is umpires and officials, game officials in general, you know, those people that are doing that, it's like a nurse and a cop and a fireman. It's almost like a thankless job. You know, like you're gonna put into it what you want to get out of it. And you know, most people want to give back. Like, it's pay it forward, like constantly. Like, if there's not ADM, advanced developmental module, and kids that want to play from squirts all the way through midget, I wouldn't have a job.
Okay.
Okay, mess around.
Have you ever like accidentally been like checked into the boards by a player?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You have no idea.
So going off that, then what would you say is the worst shot you've ever taken? Like, you may not have seen it coming, and all of a sudden, bam, you take it.
I got one for you.
All right.
A year ago, I was doing a Notch event in Pittsburgh. So I was about 8 to 10 hours from my house. So it was a 4-on-4. It was, I believe it was senior AA. So it was basically the guys that play pro. 2 men in the back, 6 guys up front. I'm up high with the 2 guys in the back. The player to my left decides he's going to do a reverse wraparound. He spun around, puck came off his stick, right in there, broke my nose. All I did was I got hit in the face. I caught the blood. I blew my whistle, caught the blood more, and then I went off and wiped my nose. Finished the game.
Wow.
Then I went to the hospital.
Wow.
So that was the worst.
Rub some ice on it.
Yeah, right. I rubbed some dirt on it. Like, listen, a lot of, like, most of those kids that play, you know, they know me for years from doing this. And, you know, I think it was, I forgot one of the kids' name, his last name, but his exact words were, "Leaves, you're one tough SOB." And I said, "Thank you," as I had tears in my eyes.
Wow, that's. Tell you what, I can feel
Wow.
that pain right there, just
I can too.
right in the nose, man. That would be.
Yeah, it was bad.
That would be painful.
Like, everybody was wondering how come I didn't fall down when it happened. I said, I have no idea. I'm like, I got hit with the puck, and eyes got a little watery for a second.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, when you're first learning to officiate, what was the hardest call to remember or to learn?
You got to know the difference with all your misconduct calls, whether they're 2 and 10s, 5 and 10s, 2 5 and 10s. But those are the hard ones to do when there's altercations and there's incidents. So, you know, like, knowing what to do, and like we have cheat sheets, you know, and we have our phones with us, which we have the rules on the phone, and if you have to refer to it, you know, you're gonna get the rule right. And believe it or not, like, there's actually a piece of equipment that most referees should have in their pocket that most people aren't aware of, but we have what's called the riot pad. So that if there's ever a big brawl, because you can't break them up right away because you get killed, you write L and D, light and dark, and you start jotting numbers down. And then you wait till they slow down, and then you break them up, because if you ever notice, they let them go, because if you try and get in there when they're swinging right at the beginning, it's adrenaline. You're going to get hurt. And
So
you have to trust your partner, too. Like, when your partner says he's got him, you better have him.
So what do you mean by light and dark? I'm just curious.
Light jersey, dark jersey.
Oh, okay. That's kind of what I thought you meant, but I just wanted to clarify.
Yep.
All right, James.
Okay, back in 1996, 97, I know you're a big Islanders fan, but what was your impression of John Spano buying the Islanders?
It was almost like it was a commodity that was thrown around Long Island to men that thought it was their hobby. And when the Computer Associates owner Wang bought it, like he had a passion for the team, and he really solidified the hometown feeling. Like it was our own. We had ownership to that team.
And welcome in, Callan. I didn't get a chance to introduce him. So, Callan, what question do you have for Scotty?
First, it's great to have a fellow hockey person on this program, Scott. I work in the American Hockey League right now here in sunny San Diego, California, for the Gulls, who've been around for who knows how long, since 1966. And more so, the question I always ask, though, like someone like yourself, again, you've been a referee. You grew up with the Islanders back in the dynasty eras of Gillies and God bless his soul, by the way, and Nystrom and Bossy. But I think, though, more so, Scott, is the question, though, is where do you believe the game is at right now with how that the NHL has grown from 6? It went to, the next 6 into now we have teams in what people would call non-traditional hockey markets like LA and Anaheim and San Jose, Las Vegas. We've gone to Arizona. We've gone to Texas. We've gone to a lot of these other obscure, really not really obscure, but like, metro areas who probably didn't have the game like it was with Boston and Toronto in the original 6, and that the game has grown so much. And I always say, though, as well, Scott, that part of my what my purpose of my career is, I work as a PA announcer here in the American Hockey League, is to help be a part of growing this game in Southern California, whether it's through the ice, through ice or roller or pickup or street, whatever it may in fact be. So, Scott, where do you believe right now that the game is right now, with so many either California kids getting drafted, Austin Matthews coming from Arizona, again, players being drafted to the top league in hockey, but not from the Northeast or from Minnesota or cold weather areas?
There's a good example on the USA men's team. I think one of the kids is from Florida.
Okay.
And he's a roller hockey player, and I think he scored the winning goal a couple nights ago, and he made history. And there's a ton of ice hockey players that they travel through the roller hockey circuit. Patrick Maroon being one of them. I have pictures of him with Greg Thompson in State Wars back in the 90s, and he's a kid. And I see him now. I have a picture of him in his living room with the Stanley Cup, and his son has the Tours Cup because he won the cup at the same time, and they're both holding it up on their couch.
That's amazing.
Yep. It's kind of cool. His hands are like the size of 3 of mine when I shook his hand when I met him.
Wow. It's crazy.
He's just the nicest guy, very soft-spoken, but he'll beat the heck out of you.
Wow. All right. So what age did you actually start playing hockey or getting interested in hockey, should I say?
I started playing at 5.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. I played deck hockey when they invented it. I started playing roller hockey when they invented it, and I still do all 3 to this day. Like, I have my ball hockey certification from USA.
Okay. I think when I saw one of your pictures, your profile pictures on Facebook, I think I saw you because I think you shared it on your profile, and I believe, were you actually looking at the video monitor of like a play that was happening? Because you're like, I always get stuck in somebody when they're taking a picture. You're like, I always get stuck in the picture. So were you watching a replay?
No, I again, I know so many of the players from doing this so long. Like, we all, off the rink, it's camaraderie. Like, they hate me for 10 minutes or a half hour, and then when we're done, everybody's hanging out and it's all good.
Okay. Big B.
So, is there anybody that's made it to like the NHL that you cross paths with? And is there maybe somebody you see now that you could see potentially getting up there?
Like I said, one player I know who he plays I'm pretty sure he's on. What am I gonna say? It's John Chavo, and I think he's on the on the Mayhem. He might be up north in Chicago somewhere else, but like I've known him and his dad since he's a little kid, and I happen to wear number 44 also. And like it was a big joke back in the '90s because I was playing roll hockey and I wore number 44 because Mike Bossy was my favorite player, but somebody always had number 22, so I doubled it. And then when John Chavo's father came to the roll hockey team, he wore number 44, and I was there first. So the way Mike Chavo was, there was 2 number 44s on that team. And we make jokes to this day because when I ref a lot of the pro divisions, I see John Chavo out there, and I wear number 44 on my back, and he wears it. And I always bring up his father, and he says, "But I'm still skating, and his father's not." So it's you got to keep up with these kids, and they're fast, and you got to get out of their way.
All right, mess around.
How hard on yourself are you? Like after a game, you like, I should have called this, I should have called that. Do you ever have those type of games? Like
every game, every game. Every game, I can critique myself on things that I've messed up on. Like it's a saying that if you play a perfect game, I'll call a perfect game, and nobody can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I try and own my mistakes, and I think that gives me some level of credibility.
And I know with me, officiating, like I said, officiating football, that sometimes I'm my hardest critic to where at times, I do tell myself at times, I'm like, yeah, I botched that call. I screwed up on it. I should have called it and I didn't call it, or I called it and maybe I shouldn't have. So, sometimes being officials, we kind of are harder on ourselves than anything because we're trying to be as perfect as we possibly can, but we can't be. We can't be.
It's hard. It's hard to think that fast, and
Totally.
I do try and find myself. I'll hesitate, and then people want a quicker call, but I'd rather hesitate and get the call right than
absolutely
shoot from the hip and not make the right call. Without even consulting my partner if I have to.
So, do you ever go back and watch the film just to see, when you're after the game, you're like, I'm kind of going to go back and watch the film just to see if maybe I could have called it or I shouldn't have called it or whatever?
There's really no films for these games other than everybody with their cell phones. So, just for pure love and passion for the game, like you know what you did and after the game what you're going to process. And, in the end, if you learn something from it, you're a better official. If you don't learn anything from it, you might be a one-sided official, and you don't want to be a one-sided official or known as a one-sided official because it's reputation and credibility again.
Absolutely.
I make a ton of mistakes, and I laugh, and it comes from me, and everybody knows me, so like it's sort of accepted. But I yelled at a lot every game.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, have you refereed in the Olympics or at least attended any Olympic games?
No,
Hockey?
like I wish I could make it to that level, but other than being 6'2" and Canadian, there's politics involved. So I'm happy where I am. It keeps me busy, and it keeps me in good shape. I'm not 230 pounds anymore.
All right, James.
So you mentioned your favorite players growing up and whatever. Do you have a favorite referee or someone you emulate your style to?
Great question.
Paulie.
Yes, great answer. Yes.
He wears number 4. I wear 44.
5 minutes each for fighting.
Oh yeah, I talk to the players all game. Like I'm very animated. I'm very vocal. It makes the time go by a little quicker. And I think people, some don't appreciate it, but the ones that do appreciate it because you're engaged. Like you care. Like you give a crap about what's going on. Safety first. I'll be the bad guy every time. I don't care.
Okay, Callan?
Mainly, Scott, and I think you know very well that roller hockey kind of helped spark further interest in the game out here on the West Coast again. You know, the Kings came in '67, then San Jose, then you had the Mighty Ducks movies drop, then you had, you know, the second film where they're playing the Junior Goodwill games, you know, in Los Angeles, but they're playing, you know, they go and learn from, you know, from Keenan Thompson and the guys in South Central LA, then they go and play the, you know, the title game at the Arrowhead Pond. But more so for you as a referee, though, is there sometimes times that you may find it, or that maybe sometimes referees might have a bit of a transition going from, say, refereeing a inline game where there's no icing, there's no offsides, to when you have to get back in the mindset of, oh, I have to call an icing or call an offsides here?
Yeah, it's every so often you'll make that mistake. You'll call a bad offsides. But, you know, like, in my opinion, all hockey is the same when it comes to penalties. The only difference with all the different ones is just puck location when it goes out of play and when there's a stoppage. But in general, the penalties are all the same.
Totally.
And, it's the same complaints regardless of deck hockey, roll hockey, or ice.
All right, so I don't know if you saw this, but there was I believe it was Jalen Ramsey in the NFL who said this. If I remember, I think it was Jalen Ramsey who came out and said it. But he kind of made a comment about hockey. And so when I saw this comment about hockey, I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. I was like, this guy definitely doesn't completely understand. He said, look, I'm an NFL athlete. He said, you give me 6 months and I could be a professional hockey player and I could dominate the league if I wanted to.
It sounds like a comment a certain member of our network backstage would be saying right now, too.
What is your thoughts on that, Scott?
It'll never happen, and that's not realistic.
Thank you, Scott.
I come across a lot of players that are fantastic players, and they're never going to make it to the NHL. You know, that's just how it is. Like it's like a 2%er game. You know, most hockey is, you know, it's expensive. So, you know, like you'll get more of the quote unquote educated people where they can carry on a decent conversation because, you know, they come from wealth and, you know, that's how they're groomed. But, you know, it's an expensive sport, you know, and it's like an expensive hobby. So, you know, like if you could afford it, see how far you can go.
All right, Big B.
Shoot, I just had one too. What do you got like a trigger point that coaches and players like get to where you're like, okay, you're gone. You know, do you have like that trigger?
Yes. I kind of joke about it. You get 3 FUs and 2 A-holes, and then you're out.
So 5 strikes and then you're out.
Pretty much.
All right.
That's a good system to have, though.
I threw one guy out one game, and then 5 minutes later, somebody told me to go F myself, and I didn't even throw him out. I said he gets 2 more.
That is definitely some, like, I don't know what to say. That's a lot of leeway right there. That's a lot of
leash.
leeway.
A lot of leash.
That definitely is a lot of leash because.
Well, you know how it goes. You know, like you could either climb the ladder, and then you're gonna screw yourself, or you could take a timeout and then get back out there and remove head from ass.
Go sit in the box and think about it for 2 minutes, and then come back and talk to me.
Wow. All right, mess around.
If you weren't in Fitch, what would you do? What would you be doing for a living or see yourself doing?
It's a good question. You know, I have a business degree. You know, I used to own my own business at one point, and I worked at the airport for over 7 years. So I would probably say that I would probably still be working at the airport.
Nice. All right, Chris.
I
can come back to you if you're not sure.
All right,
James.
So, watching the game for some years now, do you have a favorite all-time hockey announcer?
Probably Jiggs McDonald.
All right.
Oh, you must not have heard Colin yet call a game yet.
No. Hey, Scott, I tried for 2 years when I was in high school. Horrible. I ended up doing public address and said, I like this a lot better than play-by-play.
You know, now you got Butch Goring, and, you know, Brendan Burke and Shannon.
Kenny
Okay.
Albert's calling the gold medal game right now between Canada and Team USA on NBC
Are
with
they?
AJ Malesko.
Yeah, AJ, that's one tough cookie, boy. But she's great with the fans, and same with Shannon. Like, when they're in the parking lot and you talk about the people in the parking lot, they're talking about the Blue and Orange Army.
Yeah.
Callan, do you have a question?
I guess I'll stay on the women's side of things, Scott. And I'm a firm believer that, women's sports needs to be on par with men's sports. And I was able to talk to Haley Skamura from Team USA back in June of last year on my podcast on our partner network here with Coast to Coast. And, having met Hillary Knight, I've met a few of the players. I met a lot of them, though, actually, through just my job with the AHL club here in San Diego via the web or at events I've been at. Scott, maybe where do you think that women's hockey's at right now? Because I know that there's obviously, people who say, that, it shouldn't be on TV or this and that, or there's fans that are like, I want more, but there's not that exposure, maybe the Olympics or when Team USA plays Canada in the rivalry series. Just in a nutshell, me and two of my good friends, Matt and Jeremy, went and saw them play Canada at Honda Center. That became the largest attended women's home game in the States since they played in Denver, I want to say 15 years ago. There's 13,320 people. And Haley and I talked about that. And we basically, in a nutshell, said with how the Ducks marketed this event from October 15th until February 8th, it was like, this is how it's done and stuff like that. So, Scott, maybe where do you think, women's hockey is right now? Is it on the rise? Is there still room for improvement? Where's the game at right now on the ladies' side?
I think that they've evolved, and they definitely need a lot more credibility and publicity. A close friend of mine is actually, I'm not sure if they're married yet, but they just had a kid. But he's, his significant other is Taylor Holtz, and she was from the Riveters, and they're local.
Mm-hmm. So do you actually referee women's hockey too, or just the male side?
I get female games every so often. When I did I was in Nashville a few months ago. I was there actually when they had that tornado a few months ago, and I was in the town where they had the tornado, and nobody from New York left because we're afraid of nothing. But they had a complete women's division. There was a couple teams from California, and I just think they're all quality players. Like it's just what's the right word I'm looking for? It's refreshing to see what they brought to the table, and they're good. They know what they're doing. Like I'm friends with a few of the girls that play, and let me tell you, I put them up against some men any day of the week, and they can hold their own.
Yeah. So with me, when I referee going into a game, I know it's kind of weird to think like this, but going into a game, sometimes I can look at the schedule and be like, okay, I know going into this game, I'm going to have a rough time with this coach because he's like the meanest coach out there. Do you ever have any of those moments to where right before a game, you're like, you know what, this coach is hard to deal with. I deal with this coach all the time and he's rough. So do you have those coaches that you're like, oh man, it's going to be a brutal game?
Yeah, we all do. And, every game, you can't hold a grudge or you wouldn't be doing this for that long. Before every game, you go over to the coaches. Some coaches are more friendly than others and you know them better than others. But, you always introduce yourself, give them a handshake, give them a rundown of, what you're looking for and how much leeway you're going to give them. And, just so we're all on the same page with certain rules, like, the automatic icings and offsides and the net guards and the mouth guards. And, every game's a clean slate, in my opinion. I'm sure, as bad as it sounds, I'm probably one of the most hated referees on Long Island. And that's because I call a game the way it's supposed to be called. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but I believe I'm fair. And more people than less people tell me that I'm fair, so I'm going to continue to do this. And my boss is also an AHL official. He goes to Connecticut a lot. I believe he does probably the Wolfpack. And, when I work with him, he critiques me every game, telling me, get out of there. You can't stand there. And, I'm like, they're 12, But right away he's like, "Oh, if you're in a juniors game, they're gonna run you over." And I was like, "I've already gotten run over a few times." So.
It's either the Wolfpack or the Bridgeport Islanders over there in
Yep.
Connecticut. Yeah.
Yeah, my boss does. He does Bridgeport. He's also a statistician for the Rangers.
There you go.
Nice. All right, Big B.
Is there like when you see the schedules come out or games that you want to or ref? I'm sorry. Is there like a good rivalry game that you're like, oh, I'm getting this game? Is there a good rivalry that you want to ref or have ref?
All the games are pretty competitive. Like when you're at the travel level, like I've been doing it for long enough where I can almost tell what team you play on just based on your style of skating and what you do. I can tell the kids that went to Stony Brook University and whatnot. So, like you just almost every game's like that. And like every game, like I love this stuff as much as I hate it. But like, you love to hate the sport. And if it didn't keep you on your toes, you wouldn't stay interested. And you accept the challenge every day.
That's a good analogy there. I don't think I've ever quite heard that. You love to hate it. You love to hate it. I like it. Mess around.
Much like the players have rituals, do you have any rituals or things you do to get ready for games?
Great question.
Oh, absolutely. Like we're all nuts.
I'm nuts, and I just announced the game for the people that are at the game in the arena.
Like I get made fun of because I need a left. Like always left skate on first, and there's a certain way I put my equipment on. And when I tie my skates in the back. And everybody asked me, "How come you do that?" And I said, "I learned this when I was a kid. When I first started playing, my skates would come untied because where do you get forecheck the most? Bottom of your pads on your skates. Skates don't come untied anymore. So I have horrible rituals.
I am glad I am not the only person, Scott, who ties their skates the same way. I do, pull them forward, but then pull them back and then go back forward again. So I'm glad we're on the same page with that one.
Yep, nuts.
We're loony, but hey, I'll take it.
All right, Chris, did you have a question yet, or?
No, I'm good right
No.
now.
All right, James.
How long do you see yourself being a referee for?
Well, I'm going to be 53 in the summer, in July, and I do a lot of roller hockey tournaments with a referee. His name is Mark Hasman, and he's in his 70s. He's actually 72.
Wow.
He'll actually raise his hand for a penalty and then forget what he called.
Oh, no.
And, like,
Huddle up.
We love him. He was actually one of the original people to write the rule book for PIHA, which is Professional Hockey Association, and I also work for them. So, like, Mark's been around a long time, so we accept his mistakes, and it's like the Marines. You're never going to leave anybody out there by themselves, and you're always going to cover their butt. And if anybody says they don't do that, they're lying.
That's kind of the first time I've ever heard somebody will raise their hand and forget what they're calling.
Oh, he's in his 70s,
Penalty. Oh, wait, I forgot. Sorry. Play on.
Then they look at me, and I'm like, what do you want me to do?
Callan?
Scott, we've seen the game, at least from the NHL perspective, kind of, evolve over time again. Players, I know at least in my league that the players are required, regardless of their status, to wear a visor at the AHL level, and you have to have it on at all times. You can't be like the pros and, not have the bucket on during warmups as a lot of the NHL teams do. We've also seen rules get changed. We've seen, offsides, we've had video replay be expanded to include goaltender interference. And if you get it or offside plays, where if the challenge fails, you get charged a delay of game penalty for it. We've also seen the two-line pass go away. Scott, maybe what other rule tweaks maybe or changes would you probably maybe see the hockey world maybe adapt as more time goes on, and maybe with technology evolving, maybe it's other tweaks to the game to maybe add more scoring, more offense, stuff like that.
It's like they also got rid of the imaginary yellow line that goes down the rink, where the play comes from, and now it's versus dot. they're going to constantly focus on different things, whether it's, player safety commission or just the rules in general. And, like USA, they try and attack something every year and then they get rid of it the year after. So this year was the automatic offsides and automatic icings. The NHL, they want to expand the trap down in the bottom, the trapezoid, and they want to, like the goalies to maybe have smaller or bigger pads. Like the pads used to be so small. You'd have, guys stacking the pads, and now like
Dominic Hasek.
But it's evolution. Like whatever skill set they bring to the game. Like the Michigan move. Like where they carry the puck, like you're defying gravity. Like, is it illegal? Is it not illegal? Is it delay game? Is it a high stick? No, it's none of those things. But the only rule that closely applies is puck in motion, and that basically, like it's not really the natural flow and movement of the puck, so therefore, it's gray.
Scott, if I could just follow up, because again, you brought up the Michigan play, and obviously I got a chance to see Trevor Zegras play with the Ducks organization in our bubble environment last season, and he was slippery then, he's slippery now. Your overall stance maybe about Andrei Svechnikov with Carolina pulling it off, and then Zegras, I think, one-ups everybody with the Michigan pass play where he lobs it over the net. And Sonny Milano, taps it home for the goal, and the reaction, and he blows up the web.
Logo.
Basically, but more so though, I think, Scott, for you as a fan of the game, more so, I know it's maybe tough to detach the cord of being the ref, being a ref when you maybe see a play like that, but maybe does that kind of a play from a player like Zegras, who's kind of becoming, in a way, almost like one of the faces of the game of hockey, could that bring more people in who maybe are on the fence with the sport, maybe, and also like your stance overall, maybe? Because I know that John Tortorella kind of, said his piece about it's not good for the game with, it's not supposed to be this easy and stuff of that nature. But your overall thoughts more so about maybe seeing, more players getting more innovative, with these, insane plays they pull off during the course of games.
It's, if you watch any John Chavo videos, they call him Zorro. Like, he does things that defy physics and gravity. Like, if you could bring that to the game, the game's evolving. On the other end of it, like, if you do that against my team, I'm going to take a slashing penalty and take your wrists off.
Fair.
That's how that goes. Like, like, if you want to showboat, you're going to get hit. And you're gonna be dealt with. Like, do that in rec league or with your friends. But like, when you bring it to that level, something's gonna happen because somebody's gonna take offense to it. Like it's you're a fantastic player, and most players can do it. Like I've seen guys rip around that net, and it's crossbar shoulders, still lower, no high stick.
No high stick, it's clean.
Yeah, so it's rough, but it's. Like it's showing how talented these kids are getting and how the game is evolving just by creativity.
So I know, because I've watched hockey for a long time too. But my thing is, it's interesting that you mentioned this because this is actually something that I've never actually heard, and maybe it's common, but I don't know that imaginary yellow line that you were talking about. I haven't heard that term. So what exactly is that imaginary yellow line?
If you look at all 9, 2, 4. If you look at all the face-off dots on an ice rink, from each dot, if you imagine a yellow line connecting them all together, in the past, whenever like there was an offside where the player would come from, if it was between the dots, you pretty much you put it right there where it came from. Now they go nearest dot, which just makes more sense.
Okay.
Well, that was around the 2-line pass era too, and they got rid of that because
thank goodness that rule went by the wayside.
Yeah, like they just the whole give and go and the home run pass, go for it.
Especially when you got a guy coming out of the box and you can get him right out of there and he's already ahead of the fray. Like if there was a 2-line pass, well that play would be shot down every time.
Evolution of the game.
Evolution.
It's promoting scoring. That's really what's behind it. That's the logic behind that.
Okay. So because you were talking about, like showboating a little bit and different things that happen in the game, have you ever been in a situation to where immediately a player gets hit and you're like, oh, that was a cheap shot, and you're immediately like, dude, you're gone. Like
Obvious
you can't.
mentally.
Yeah, like an obvious thing.
Yeah, like again, it's everything has criteria. So like, in my book, you keep your feet moving. Most guys can't multitask and do two things at the same time. So, like you'll give yourself away.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Big B, I think we have enough for each person to ask one more question. Big B?
Yeah. When I play sports, baseball mainly, I'll miss a call or the team thinks they were giving a call to the other team. How much does it bug you when people are chirping at you like, "Oh, that was a make-up call from earlier"? I mean,
Oh yeah, good question.
well, how's that bug you? Because it bugs
Like
me as a player.
in theory, you try and keep some level of a scorecard in your mind because, like you don't want to try and call the game one-sided.
Yeah.
Other than if they really have it coming, you try and keep things even, and like 90% of them they want to play. And you let them play through. Work it out. And like you have conversations with them. To take their focus off. I want to kill him too. Hey, we just both got boards. We got each other. Let's keep going.
Okay.
All right, mess around.
Yeah, if you could change any part of the way you officiate, what would it be?
Ooh.
My skating and some of my knowledge of the rules, because there's a lot to know, and it's almost like it's trial by fire. And if you don't practice your craft and make mistakes, you're not going to learn from anything.
That was a really good question. That was actually a really good question. All right, Chris, any final questions for you?
Is there like growing up when you're watching hockey or just getting started watching it? What was your favorite hockey memory?
Ooh, there you go.
Had to be the Bobby Knights from going. They won, I think, the second Stanley Cup.
Okay, James.
Okay, what's the furthest you've traveled to ref a game?
I did that a few months ago. I went to Nashville in Tennessee. I was actually in Henderson, Tennessee. I did the Nasty Cup.
Wow.
I had a few friends playing in that tournament. Now that I think about it, I saw a few of them out there playing. Yeah.
So all you gotta do is say leaves. They all know me.
Oh
The
man.
Nasty Cup.
No, Nashville or Nashville.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
thought he said nasty
Scott,
too, and I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
I thought he said nasty too, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, no, Scott, I have a few friends who live here in Southern California who I've met through work, with the Gulls and the Ducks who still play roller and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think that two of them were in Nashville for that tournament, so they probably know who you are.
Yeah, just number 44 on leaves, and they're like, "Oh yeah,
I'll have to
guy's a
ask next time I
jerk."
see him.
All right, Callan, did you have any final questions?
Yeah, actually, this popped in my head. Speaking of roller, Scott, I found a story, I think, from like the ESPN archives. They wrote about when they had the Pro Beach Hockey League on ESPN back in the 90s. Right there on, right there in Newport. The elevated rink. The games were on TV over the
They
summer.
had 3-point shots and everything.
3-point shots, 2-point shots. And believe it or not, like I said, I have a few coworkers I know who work up in Anaheim who still go to where the rink used to be. They still play on like the flat ground up in Newport Beach. What's the one bucket list tournament for either ice or roller that you would love to work as an official?
Probably Winter Wars West and Tours in Tampa.
Oh man. So those are like the two really big like roller tournaments.
Yeah, like the big tournament is State Wars, and that's going to be in Michigan this year, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be reffing that one. This will be my first one this year also. So those are the three that I want to check off the list.
If I'm ever free and you're in Irvine at the rinks, I'll try and come up for the weekend and watch some hockey and maybe get out there after everyone plays and show off my lack of skills.
Absolutely. I got a lot of friends out there too.
Same here. Same here.
All right. Well, we definitely want to thank you, Scott, for coming on. It's been a lot of fun getting to pick your brain about the game of hockey and figuring out how you started. So
My twisted view.
So, with that, we're going to kind of get everybody's final thoughts. So, Big B, any final thoughts?
No, it's great to learn more about hockey, a sport that, even though I live in Minnesota, I never picked up. I mean, I watch it here and there, but, it's great to have you on, Scotty. Hopefully we can do this again. And, just thanks to everybody for viewing and commenting.
All right, mess around.
Yeah, y'all know I'm not the biggest hockey guy, so I learned a few things tonight, and thanks for that,
At least
Scotty.
somebody did, unlike the guy backstage.
All right, and then Chris.
Thank you everybody for watching. It was good having this interview, and everybody enjoyed watching the replay.
All right, James.
Yeah, great interview. Thank you, Scotty, for coming on, and I definitely learned a lot more. So I'm prepared for the playoff hockey, which I think is the purest form of sport.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which we can't leave without hearing that from Scott about what's your take on playoff hockey? You think that that's like the greatest sporting event out there is playoff hockey?
It's like a pressure cooker. You're building up to the Stanley Cup. And, all the teams that make it to the playoffs, that's the upper epsilon, between stats and, skill, and it's always exciting to watch because you never know what these guys are bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm. All right, Callan, any final thoughts for you?
Hey, I got my stick ready to go, Scott. So stick taps to you for coming on to the program and things like that. And certainly nice to talk about hockey with a fellow official in the game and someone who works in the game like I do. So thank you again for coming on.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me.
Oh, absolutely. And then Scott, any final thoughts for you?
I just really appreciate you guys listening, and all the questions were really good questions. And, again, I can't see myself ever doing anything else. Like, my son plays, I get to officiate my son. I travel to all the tournaments, and, I've reffed a few of his games when you're really not supposed to. But, it's...
How hard is that?
You got to let things go. I took him to Rhode Island 2 weeks ago, and, I had to ref his game because I was the only ref that was there that was willing to go. And, he got crushed in the back. And, I know the guys. And I went to the penalty box. And I'm like, he's 90 pounds wet. He's like, I'm sorry, But,
Come on, man. Have some mercy.
He's playing with the big boys. And I tell him, don't tell your mother.
Great. That's a dad win right there.
Don't
Right.
tell your mother.
I told her. But, we've been together for 33 years.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Well, yep. So we definitely want to thank all of our viewers for watching. I want to thank everybody for hopping on. Scott, it's been a pleasure. So thank you very much. And you know what? Hopefully one day we can do this again. Because
Absolutely. Thanks for reaching out. Anytime, stay in touch, throw me messages, and, we're all friends now.
all right. Absolutely. All right. So thank you very much. And maybe, one day when you go big time as an NHL official.
I wish. Huh.
Or if I see you in San Diego and I get to announce, Scott Lieberman is your head referee for tonight's game.
Right?
No,
Just
yeah.
put me out there with Wes McCauley. We'll take care of everything.
Come to Minnesota. We'll wine and dine you Minnesota style up here. So
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I wish I could say the same thing about Oregon, but there's really not much going on out this way. As
And you got to get to Seattle, sir, or go watch the Portland WHL team play.
right? Yeah. Because there's really not too much around here. But yeah. So thanks all of our viewers. Thanks everybody for being on. And with that, I hope everybody has a fantastic night, and we'll see you next Wednesday for another episode of Sports Minute. Have a good night.